Today's episode of From the Trenches, part of the Bering McKinley Vision podcast series, we've got Terry with us. And Terry, if I understand it right, because Terry and I are just getting to know each other a little bit, Terry is in this building phase of his IT solution provider business. What I'm really curious about is what was Terry doing before this, and why in the hell is he jumping into the IT solution provider space in 2025? So, Terry, nice to see you.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So Terry Baylor, I'm in Houston, Texas. And to answer your question, why jump in now? Actually, we've been building since 2022. And ultimately, I knew that the years that I've spent in corporate have been great. I don't have any bad things to say about that. It's, helped me hone who I am, my craft. I've met a ton of great people, but ultimately, I believe my calling was greater, and that greater calling is to, build some, you know, wealth for my family, build some wealth for other folks' family. Right? There have been some amazing people who've partnered with us, and also to really serve in a way. Um, Honestly, how I saw my mom and dad serve, right? I saw them give their lives, man, just for others' gain. So, my dad's no longer with us. God bless his soul. He, 7 boys and 2 girls later, right? Yeah, I come from a pretty big family, pretty amazing family. And so I'm I'll spill the tea on this, as they say. I learned that from my 21-year-old, the tea. I'm a preacher's kid. I'm a preacher's kid. So, yes, I'm one of those. And so, again, I saw my mom and dad serve tirelessly, serve others. And my mom, still living, just turned 91. Mother Maddie Baylor, God bless her. I got a note from her the other day. Just keep God first, son. I love what you're doing, but keep God first. So, and I appreciate that, right? Because it's about being, level headed. It's about being grounded. Some of the things that I've been able to do, my mom and dad just wasn't in their fear of influence, but they have influenced thousands, right? They haven't managed multi-million dollar accounts, right? Right. Where I've done that. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, I can't thank you enough for the foundation that you built for me and my brothers and sisters to go out in the marketplace and impact the world. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
So, Terry, I appreciate that. And I'm going to share in this. It's something I think about in my head. Now, I like God. God's full. Sometimes this fan club it will not for me, but I'm dealing with God. I've live a Catholic, recovering Catholic.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you, after 20 years of serving MSPs, those clients and colleagues that I've met along the way that are super grounded and frankly public about their spirituality, their religious beliefs, it's a one for one. Those guys happen to be the guys that absolutely. Now, is there a correlation, a causation, a coincidence? I don't know. But my observation, those folks that have that strong spiritual center, which I have to say, it's probably not me, but those guys kill it. I'm not saying us heathen can't do well too, but we all could have that really, really strong spiritual focus. I'm not ready to call it yet, but there seems to be a strong correlation.
I appreciate you sharing that because, you know, uh, I've been in it all my life, right? And so there's evolutions to it, right? You come to, there's growth aspects of it. And here's where I am right now. And, God is so amazing. I'll just say this. He's given humanity the best part of him. That's why we have AI today. That's why we have MSPs, right? He's fair. I'll just say that. Everybody has the tool of creativity. He's given every one of us that piece of him, right? That the greatest part of who he is his creativity, right? He spoke this amazing place into existence. And in that same way, Josh, there are things that you speak over your team. There are things that you speak over your family, your friends, right? And 6 months down the road, you're like, man, those words came to pass. Well, that's your creative power. So I believe if we tap into that, and just to kind of lean into that just a little bit, I have a mentor, and she had referenced a book for me, and it's called Next Level. I would advise any leader, anybody who wants to do any kind of leadership to read this book. And so, but they talk about 4 key areas that we all got to have, and there's no one way. I'm not going to come in and say there's just this one way to do it, but it talks about your phy- physical health, right? Physical. Talks about your mental health. It talks about your relationships, right? And the 4th key area is spirituality. Now, that is a broad, just like working out, right? Some people swim, some people run, some people bike. There are a lot of ways to get there. But I believe if we can hone in on those 4 key areas, then we're going to be whole as human beings, right? So I think there's a next level. Next level. Yeah, I'll probably look it up here. I'll get you the author here in a bit. But yeah, Next Level is a great book.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think there's a lot to lean in there. Terry, let me ask you, as you think about your career, where have you spent some time? Have you spent some time primarily in the IT space? You've done with sales background, pure business background. Tell us a little bit about.
Sure, sure. Yes, I'm an IT guy, right? I went to school. I shared a little bit about this. So when I first went to school, I wanted to make movies. So this was back in the doing the Star Trek days when it was the Second Coming with Jean-Luc Picard and all those guys, right? And so during that time frame, they were using an Omega 3000 to do all the special effects. So where I went to school, small liberal arts college outside of St. Louis, called Missouri Baptist College. And anyway, man, I was doing all that stuff, doing edits, and so I got a little bit more understanding of how that industry works. And they were like, well, you're going to have to pay your dues. And I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, well, you're going to have to get coffee and donuts, and you're just going to have to do the grunt work. I mean, and so I asked myself, Terry, can you do stuff that people are asking you that they can do for themselves? Well, at 19, I was like, I'm not cut out for that industry. I'm like, bro, you're going to have to get your own tea and donuts. Yeah. So, but, with technology and filmmaking and all that was so close. And, I like technology from a small kid. I'm an Atari guy, all of that. Right. And so I went into management information systems, COBOL, Fortran. So at my heart, I guess I'm a coder. And I graduated from school, went and worked at a small company called Talks in St. Louis. And that's really where I was introduced to break fix. It was a great job. So I got to do coding. And I mean, this was a big deal, right? I was the new guy. I got a 66 megahertz PC. I was the man, right?
Level.
And so that's a while back, right? That's back when the AT was, I'm dating myself really bad here.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I got involved in break fix at that time. And, that company was doing IVR. So I got to learn a lot about, T1s and RJ11, just all of that. It was a great experience for me. I traveled, and I fell in love with break fix there. Still did a little coding, but as time went on, I ended up working 20 years in healthcare at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis. So that was great. I mean, so that's really why I'm kind of landed back in the healthcare space. Moved to Houston back in 2015, worked 5 years at Energy Gen. I wanted to get in the rat race. I wanted to do the Fortune 500, man. I wanted to see what those big bonuses were like. So it was great. I had 3 teenagers at the time, and those 60-hour weeks started to weigh on me, and had an opportunity to go to a credit union, and where I spent 5 years, which that environment felt a lot like the academia to me, because it's about helping and, really that community kind of base. And so spent 5 years there, and honestly, this last April, I said, you know what, I'm all in, both feet in. with Lift Life Technology. So that's where, where I am right now.
Well, that's first of all, shout out to the credit unions. I just celebrated 40 years with my credit union.
Awesome.
As
Yes.
a little kid, I've had it forever. They just did uh, fortunately, they're getting kind of conglomerated a little bit with other
Yeah.
organizations. I love the credit union. So, okay. And they have a sense of purpose and
Yes. Yes.
but just unwavering in all my years.
Yes. Yes. And I love that. That was a major, because when I was looking to go somewhere, I had a lot of opportunities and I really wanted, purpose is a lot. It just means a lot to me. Right. So that it fit.
That's excellent. So then, did you say 2022 is when you started the
Yeah.
turning out
Yes. Yes.
3 years into you take a crazy leap, right? At the tail end of the pandemic and said, I'm doing it myself. I'm going to start this and I'm going to serve who I'm going to serve and I'm going to make it or break it all on my own.
And so really how that started is I'm a home, so we homeschooled our kids up until, well, so my daughter went to high school when she was a freshman, and she plays softball and all that. She's a D1 softball athlete. And my oldest son, he's headed off to college this year, and he was doing basketball. And so we were homeschooling until their aspirations pushed them somewhere else. And so with my middle son, he was doing homeschool basketball, and I met a gentleman here in Houston, and we both agreed that our sons would never play college basketball in homeschool. So he had really strong ties in the basketball community here, as well as in academia. He'd helped start some charter schools. Long story short, he started a online synchronous learning school called PSAT Academy. And so that's really how Lift Life Technology started. And so the fact that we would have kids, and again, this is right in the height of the, COVID. So it was really needed, right? And so, we got teachers from all over the country. We started off with about 25 kids who were high academic, high athletic kids. We've had kids placed at D1 schools across America. And so because kids were going to be online, so I'm like, hey, we really need to make sure these kids are protected. So I started a security awareness program. And so shout out to Dr. Green, Andrew Green. I love you, bro. So he would tell me every week, Terry, you need to start your own. I'm like, no, man, I love what I'm doing here for the school, right? Because it's purpose driven. And we're doing these families, and he just wouldn't let it go. He wouldn't let it go. So I'm like, okay. I talked to my wife. I'm like, hey, babe, can you help me out? Can you get the paperwork started for Lift Life? And, a year into PSAT Academy, Lift Life Technology was born. So that's really how it came about, really helping students and doing security awareness training.
And so then you had to make this really tough transition and a tough, relative to whatever you think it is, but you got to make the transitions. And I'm accustomed to working for a single organization, intimately knowing that network, that environment, the end
Yep.
user, and saying, okay, now I might be serving 30, 40,
Yes.
100% client one day.
Yes.
Make
Yes.
that mental transition. And then also learning the MSP fitness model and the pricing and selling and all that. What gives you some of the confidence that you will figure all those pieces out and be able to make that transition to?
Sure. Sure. I believe so from a technology standpoint, you know, feel really strong that I can, speak to that, right? I've managed everything from network to data center. And then in terms of the clients that I've had to serve, right? Working in a healthcare environment, especially an academic healthcare environment, um, where I oversaw the health record. So basically, I had 50 clients already, right? I had neurology, I had OB, I had, urology. I just all these, we had 55 specialties. So being able to hone in to what the specifics are for each client, I believe there is an intuitiveness. I also believe that my background being raised, as a PK and seeing how to serve so many different types of people, different types of needs, I believe, being able to not be fixated on one way, I guess, I think that kind of just is a natural fit for me. Um, I think the biggest, man, I'll say this, the what my biggest challenge is really, it's probably just coming into the MSP space and understanding the tools because coming from an enterprise situation, initially when I started out, I was trying to build everything like I built my enterprises. And man, the light bulb came on for me where I had an opportunity to go to a ConnectWise event last last fall. It changed my life. It changed my life. I was there and I called my partner back. I'm like, bro, dude, we can go to market tomorrow. We don't have to build anything. We just have to bring who we are, our knowledge, right? Our care for people. We can go to market tomorrow because there's this ecosystem out there. To me, that was the biggest challenge is how do we get the tools to scale so we can serve? Um, I think the people piece, I think that comes a little natural. Now the sales thing, yeah, that's a new beast, and I'm learning a lot. We've rebranded. I guess you guys can kind of see the virtual background here, but that's part of our branding. Are really honing in on who we want to serve. I think that was probably one of our biggest feats, because now we can narrow down, we can really hone in and speak the right conversations consistently. And so I think that's kind of where we are. But understanding the sales cycle, that those are the things I'm learning, and I got some mentorship there, and it's mentorship's everything. So that's been a huge piece. Matter of fact, I got a coaching today at 2 o'clock, so I can't wait.
Yeah, good on you. Yeah, I think in observation as management consultants serving the MSPs, well over 5,000 companies at this stage after 20 years. Awesome. It is awesome. It's overwhelming to think about sometimes. But one of those observations is to those folks that go all in on a vertical, it's a scarier start because we can get distracted. But I'm going after dental, but man, this construction firm has this really juicy project, or this law firm has something else, and I think it's okay to be a generalist. I think generalist really is a good safe path. But those that get narrowed into one vertical, again, they kill it. They absolutely kill it because they learn the language. They learn what makes that business. They learn the tools of that vertical, that dominating that vertical. And it just is such a nice place to be. Off the ability to go to the goal, knowing where to spend the marketing and sales efforts and dollars. It gets laser focused. Finding the mess again gets super focused. So would I be overstating if I said Terry is focusing on a vertical, a one channel of type of business?
Correct. Yes, that is totally correct. So I have to give a shout out to Jenny at Meetup. And so again, right, so much of who Lift Life Technology is today is a result of some of the coaching that I received there. And this one just great transition moment is because we're a Cisco partner, and so there's a community that I'm a part of, and I had an opportunity to actually speak at the event last fall, which was, for a small company like us, we were like, oh man, great, we're going to jump at that. So we're on the stage with Cisco, Blackpoint Cyber, and they want to know how is a company like Lift Life Technology leveraging, and what's our go-to-market strategy. And so going to that event, Jenny challenged me, Terry, what are you going to say when you get on that stage? Who are you? Who are you serving? And I spent about a month to really prepare for that. And she asked me some hard questions. Where have you spent most of your time? Who do you think needs what what you guys are going to provide? And after that, really, soul searching, I'm like, you know what, guys, we need to hone in on healthcare. I said, when I look across our team, we have over 40 years of healthcare. Now, granted, we got 15 years of energy generation, right? We got, 15, 20 years of that. But what can we just get out of our beds and just don't even think about and talk about and be relatable? Not only that, right? There is such a huge need for what we provide in that sector. And so one of the things that we're driving conversations with is the Healthcare Cybersecurity and Resiliency Act of 2024. That is such a huge, huge play for us. And we go in and talking about our VCISO services and where are you? What do you want to achieve based on what you've heard, right? That we've provided, and where do you want to be? And so we live that HIPAA life for so long, and we understand the pain points. And to your point on focusing, we narrowed down to private practices, right? Those um, concierge concierge practices. They're going to need the information that we have. They're going to need the services we have. Let's just make sure we build our product where they can actually take advantage of it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you did two narrowing exercises. You said healthcare, bang. Then it sounds like you're staying right in that security channel as well. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And so the goal is, so our niche is, we're going to ensure that you're HIPAA compliant, right? And so we're going to come in, do an assessment, right? Of course, as you know, part of that assessment is questions. Part of that assessment is looking at your infrastructure. And so we do provide infrastructure, but we just don't lead with that, right? So as we do the assessment, if the remediation calls for a hardening, right, of your WAN, then we can do that. If it calls for logging and monitoring, we can do that. If it calls for patch management, we can do that. If it calls for inventorying, CMDB, we can do that. So
Now, are you taking it as far to all the way to the point of monitoring, taking the responsibility of monitoring and managing the kind of end user tools and devices, or are you trying to stay out of that?
So we're mainly really want to be your WAN LAN,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we want to provide you with cyber services. We're really trying to stay, really, if we can, away from the desktop, right? We don't necessarily want to own the desktop from that perspective, but we will manage your, from a patch management standpoint, we will ensure that identity is being, securely managed and things of that nature. Yep.
And that one always, I think that's beautiful. Let me briefly here. How narrow are you going to get into healthcare? So, for example, one of my good buddies is so narrow he just does dent.
Sure.
Just one place.
Sure.
That served him well. Are you going to get super narrow? Private practice, I heard you say.
So yeah, we're mainly right now, we're reaching out to everyone that's, we're a lot of family medicine, a lot of peds. We're looking at some concierge. There are some direct primary care. We're looking at OB. So I haven't necessarily honed into that degree. We're looking at, psychology, counseling and things of that nature. So we haven't gone down to that degree. Now, granted, I'd love to talk to your buddy about the dentist, because I'm hearing, man, dentists are tough. It's tough to break in there.
Well, he'll tell you. He'll tell you that unless you're going to serve 500 dentists, serve 0 dentists. They'll throw a wrench in everything you are trying to do, or they just, because they're not as strong on the compliance side.
Correct.
They're really terrible with money. So everything is always a fight battle. But yeah, he's been in it long enough. So let me ask you this. When we think about the healthcare, when we think about the types of healthcare you just mentioned, and we think about, the private practice, it gets really tricky in that area, as you know, to get their attention. I didn't even get her. They're busy, and the practitioner, usually the owner. Let me ask you: are you familiar with the phrase ICP.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what it is.
Yes. So ideal client profile.
Yeah. Have you built your
Yes. So right now, basically we've kind of honed in on private practice as that. And then we have a dollar amount that we believe that, yeah, we need you to be in this range because we believe you can, use our services. But with that being said, because of the Healthcare Cybersecurity and Resiliency Act of 2024, you don't have a whole lot of option, right? This is something you're going to have to do. Everyone is aware of the Change Health breach from last year, right? With they were a subsidiary or a partner, B2B partner of United Healthcare, right? And there were just hundreds of thousands of patient information records that were breached. So as a result of that, the Senate is like, look, we got to harden this thing up. So right now, HIPAA is a mandatory. I mean, it's voluntary, right? Until you attest. Well, once this bill passes, it's no longer voluntary, it's mandatory. So we see the role that we're playing, and what I'm doing now is this how I like to term it, and kind of from my background, we are evangelizing what's about to come. And so so I have a couple different exercises going on. We have an email and social media campaign going on where we're working with Cisco on that. And then I also have a field marketing exercise going on where in my area, because I'm in Houston, right? Houston, Texas, we have the largest medical center in the world. So there's not a shortage of practices. Um, I'm within 15 miles of my house, and I just don't have enough time, but I've already visited over almost 60 practices, right? And so as a part of that, I have a local um, campaign going on where I'll go back and revisit. I'm handing out my materials. I'm handing out materials from Health and Human Services that talk about cyber. And so it's really that so people who are, kind of familiar with this, right? My mom, I guess I took this from her. She still to this day hands out what they call tracks. A track is information that talks about, do you know Jesus? So I'm not handing out tracks about, do you know Jesus? My tracks are saying, do you know HIPAA?
yeah.
The Cybersecurity and Resiliency Act of 2024 is coming, and the Senate's coming after you, and you're going to have to, kind of get in line here. And so my message to those guys is, look, I may not be the service provider for you, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But at least now you know, and now you can go choose the right service provider. But if you don't find that service provider, Lift Life Technology, you know where we are, and we can have a conversation. More than happy to just give you information to help you move forward.
That's excellent, and I think now what a gift in a way, whatever that act is, it's coming in front of Congress. When if we talk to Brian's my buddy who's Surge Dennis, he is I built my business, and he's doing very very well. Mid double digits, 7-figure, 8-figure type stuff. He's killing it.
Nice.
He's like, I built the business two ways. I got in front of my clients by going clinic to clinic to clinic, knocking on the door. You kind of say, mastered how to do that without being offensive. Now my, 7, 12 salespeople, they know how to do that. But he said what really was the key for him was getting in with those vendors that Dennis had to use, that Patterson Rem, the dental, the wine. And so he knows they knew every one of those guys in their region, where they're getting their gauze from, where they're getting the x-ray machines from, and he's building those relationships. Third piece for him was, and I've seen his calendar, I've seen him speak, he is constantly at every single event of like the Northern Michigan Dental Society. He's down there speaking at it. He's going down, in fact, he served basically the top to bottom of the country, more on the East Coast of it. But he's in every one of those events, and he speaks and speaks and speaks and speaks. So, and he's gotten very good at it. I'm, not that we're trying to give you all his tips and all that kind of stuff, but
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm writing.
I suspect that you would be a very excellent public speaker and probably already are. For folks watching this, if you got that gift, figure out how to leverage it. Because there are, I have to compete with the best of the best in my industry and try to get speaking spots at IT Nation and ConnectWise events and all the things. Uh, some of these smaller events where your clients or your prospects are going to be, you get up on the stage and you are the expert. You are their expert immediately. So I think that's kind of fun. All those little angles he took to grow his practice around that. Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing that, and it sounds like we are on that path. I think the one nugget is understanding the vendors they use. That is, man, that is gold.
Yeah. He's in fact, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna share some of his secrets. And he and I know each other a long time. And he's like, I'm gonna tell you this idea and you're gonna make all this money with my idea. And I'm like, oh well good. I will see about that. I bought like people you bought out here. He he even in his ConnectWise PSA that he actually manages his sales team from. So people watching, you actually can manage your sales out of PSA, not have to get out of spot. He has an opportunity type called partnerships. So his sales reps have to go out and prospect to demo clinics, obviously, but he also requires them to be prospecting to different partnerships out there. If those like, we'll just use Patterson as an example. That same Patterson isn't going to be there 30 years. They're going to go from year to year to year, and they'll be there for a few years. Seeing what he always needs to have his reps, finding out who the reps are, the Patterson reps in this case, and make sure that they know each other. And the biggest thing I was get, one of the sales reps, he's like, I make my commission, I make my money on you dental clinics. My Patterson rep knows us, loves us, and it's he even hears that somebody's thinking about starting at the clinic. He'll hear because he's got to deal with Patterson to get all the equipment.
Correct.
I call my guy at Brian's company immediately.
Wow.
Building out operatories and doing all these things, getting there ahead of time. So you make a good enough relationship, and you are on the inside side.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate you sharing that. And so one of the great things that we have opportunity is, one of the leads that I'm working with now, and they've shared that, Terry, I want to expose you to my community. I'm like, wow. So that was a level of trust that was just really, and I was just grateful, right? And so that also spoke to, man, there must be some value that's been provided. So, and I think, what I would share with anyone is, you know what, is, you just got to put your foot out there. You just got to try. And, we're going to make some mistakes. Yeah, but it's not, we're not trying to, right? And when you make that mistake, learn from it, retool, and just come back again. A buddy of mine was sharing with me that he lives in Dallas and he was watching the Jimmy Jones, yeah, Jerry Jones story. And he was saying, yeah, he had been building, drilling holes, man. And he had the one well hit. He said, you know what I learned from that, Terry? Keep drilling.
Well, Gary, we had a guest on a couple weeks ago. His video just dropped with us in the last week, Joe Guerrero, and he's his business is not MSP, not the technology. He has a YouTube channel called After Prison Show, over a million subscribers. He's a funny, awesome guy. I just happen to be into that content for about the last 7, 8 years, have him join us, and his message was the same as yours. He's seen the peak of his social media. He's gotten to that million plus subscribers. He's seen it dip down and is always having to retool, always having to retool. He has a second channel now called Joe Does Stuff. And he's showing you, hey, you guys knew me when I was probably making hundreds of thousands a month on this. Now I'm over here trying to do this new thing because that didn't last forever. So that resiliency, that
Yes.
you drill in those holes is huge. And as MSPs, as IT solution providers, there's someone in our industry who I'm not the biggest fan of, but she's done amazing things for the community. I heard her say this years ago. She said, MSPs are really tough because you die very slow.
Hmm.
Not an overnight. It's not a over a couple of quarters. It can take you years to die, and it's such a painful death. and recognizing that, hey, I can get back. I can get back. I can do something else. I can fly something else. If I was long about my vertical, I can switch verticals. If I lost my whole staff, I can go find temporary help. But it's that not recognizing that things aren't going well quick enough to be able to pivot. Yeah. So you guys, so that's how you guys, we're still on the come up right now. So
Yes, 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 yes.
I like to ask people, because I love sales, I also love service delivery and all those things, but for the sales perspective, um, how you spending your days? What's a day of prospecting and generating business?
I am glad you asked that question because I'm learning that side of the business, right? And so my wife tells me all the time, because I would say, but for years, right, just doing anything, I'm like, man, I don't like sales. And she was like, honey, I'm gonna let you know. And this is even before I started doing this. She was like, honey, you're a great salesman. She said, you sell people all the time. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, you are so passionate. Whenever it's your passion, because I'm a big sports guy, and as you can probably tell from the intro of the show and just talking about my family, whenever I'm out, whether it's golf, I have to tell myself, don't give it to him, don't give it to him, right? Or I'm out with my son, he's hitting golf balls and we're training, or my daughter's playing softball, and her, she'll call me and she's like, hey, Dad, so and so is like, hey, are we going to practice today? I was that guy, because I just, if you want to do it, if you have a desire to do it, I have the ability to help you, I'm going to do it. And so I have to change my mind about what sales was and just say, hey, you know what? It's simply me helping like I've always done. One of my best friends, he's a Harvard grad, and he goes, Terry, man, you're just a coach. You're just a coach. That's who you are. You are a coach. You're a coach, no matter what it is, because you're always trying to help people. And so when I start looking at it from that perspective, it got easy. But to answer your question about what my day looks like, it's a combination of parsing through, okay, am I going to do any face visits today? Or these second visits are, first visits, right? So there's a different strategy and style. I'll give you an example, right? I went to visit my daughter. My wife and I went to visit my daughter last week because she was moving into a new place up in Dallas, for our last year of school. And I'm like, you know what? I'm up here. Let me hit a few practices up here, right? I had never done it. I said, but this is an opportunity. We got our pits together. We branded and all that. And it was great because they were like, I'm so glad you stopped by. We didn't know. So it's a matter of that. Then, getting home, parsing through, the cards, because my call to action is, can I get an email and a name? Who should I follow up with? And so I got my own little email campaign going on. I got a, hey, hi, this is who we are. Thanks for letting us talk to you kind of email. And then I kind of nurture that with we have a cyber tips email that I started actually just about a few weeks ago. So every couple of weeks we send out a, hey, if you didn't know, here's something that you can do to help today. And so that's kind of what my days look like between that. Right now I got at least 2 or 3 hours a week going through PSA and CPQ, RMM. So that's been, man, your folks are great. I mean, they've been amazing. I've learned a lot. I learned some things about taxes that I didn't know this week. So that's been fun. But that's it.
That's the day. Well, Terry, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna go ahead and start winding down here today.
Sure.
Hope that you would be willing to join me again
Oh, for sure.
into the sales component of what you're doing.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
No, that's awesome. I'll tell you what. Let's do 2 things. What do you want people to think about? What do you want people to know as they wind down this video?
Sure.
Message to MSP owners or any business owners of what they could be thinking about, or your positivity around this.
Sure. I believe, man, leadership, everything rises and falls with that. And so, as you noted earlier, I'm a part of a podcast, and it's called Leadership Sovereignty. where we talk about leadership principles. And I use a lot of those in, my day-to-day experience. We bring folks on, and I'm definitely going to have to ask you to do me the favor, because we're always looking to get some great people on to share and just about leadership, right? Because, some things you don't know, and you've traveled in some shoes and some roads and some miles that people who want to be where you are have traveled. And so I would say, man, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to um, acknowledge that you weren't right about something, because that means now you've grown, right? And so that, I would say, that's the biggest thing, right? That take from today's session is, we can get 1% better every day, and relearning is okay.
Right on, well, we'll leave it at that. And where can people find you? What's the name of the podcast?
Leadership Sovereignty. We have a website, www.leadershipsovereignty.com. And we have some great guests out there. And then you can find me on LinkedIn, Terry Baylor, and www.liftlifetech.com. That's where you can find us if you need cyber and HIPAA compliance services.
And thank there.
I appreciate you, Josh.